Hey, folks. Is this the end of open source software as we know it? You know, I would say that and this is my informed opinion, that the last 25 years of prosperity, of technical advances, of this just growth in what we've been able to achieve in technology has been really due to the rise of open source software. If you remember the 90s, the late 80s and the 90s, it was a time filled with lawsuit after lawsuit, lawsuit after lawsuit, defending the moats around companies' patents on technology, and growth was slow. And now we're starting to see a shift away from that paradigm, this openness of software that was available for all people to use. Our own storyteller has, in his own way, put together an informed opinion also on what are the underlying causes of this. I don't know that there is a solution right now, but we're going to look into what the problem is, how it's been manifested, and some of the ways we might be able to get out of it. We're in a brave new world now. On top of that, I just want to mention that we've been getting some feedback on the format of the program. And one of the things that has happened recently is we've become very loquacious. We are very talkative lately, and we noticed that. We've been stepping outside our time limits, and we're going to draw back on that. So you're going to see an effort today. We're going to try to make sure that we finish under an hour today and get you what you want with little of the banter. If you want more of the banter, I'll tell you a little later in the program where you can go to get that. We have some episodes that are not the Friday episode, but things where we will have a greater deal of discussion. And it's one of our specialty topics, and we're going to be spending a little more time there on that too. And finally, one of the other requests we had was to update our show notes with timestamped information about where we are in the program, so you can quickly go to different sections, different chapters in the program to get the information you need. And also a request for copies of the links to the resources that we talk about. Now, we're not going to be putting the links in the show notes. It's just getting really messy in there. So we have a different solution. And if you stick with us until the end of the program, you'll find out what it is. But before I go any further, I just want to let you guys know that you're watching or listening to the 37th episode of This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly newscast of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. It's brought to you by the Meteor Community Ambassadors. My name is Alim Gafar, streaming to you live in New York City.
Hello, and I'm Dvorak, aka Storyteller, streaming to you from Europe, Prague.
One of the changes to the program is our friend Jan Küster. Jan will be coming onto the program every other week. He has other obligations and is not able to meet with us on a weekly basis anymore, but he is still contributing. You might notice that some of the newest bits of content that have been put out there are shorts, and he's pretty much the one exclusively working on it. So if you haven't seen this week's short, go take a look and check it out for yourselves. And with that, I think we'll get to the news.
All right, jumping straight into the news. First of all, apologies, my voice is not well, a bit sick, but let's get to it. Meteor 3 and Galaxy 2 launch week. That is the big announcement. Pretty much came, I think, last week after the show. So May 13th to May 16th, there is going to be, you could say, a whole week party looking, or every day there's supposed to be some sort of a release or reveal about Meteor 2 or Galaxy 2.0. And if you sign up on their launch site, you will be in a raffle or not really sure what contest to win $300 in Galaxy credits. So I think that alone is good enough to sign up for this to get more information on this. So we now have, not really a deadline, but a release date for Meteor 3 and Galaxy 2. So kind of as I predicted, this month we'll have the release. And as I have mentioned previously, I think the rest of the year we'll be talking all about the upgrade path, hopefully with less of a frequency as time goes on. So that's the big news. Be sure to sign up and watch out for updates. There actually already are some updates on this part. If we look down here, they actually have already started doing like new posts. So that's all from Camila Rosa, so for the community manager. And we have first testimonial video from Harry Adele, and more is coming on. So be sure to follow this forum thread and keep an eye out because things will get very exciting.
Okay, that sounds amazing. If you've ever gotten into an argument with people about what you can do with Meteor, and one of the things that comes up is, well, we don't like working with Meteor because Meteor builds monoliths, and we have a problem with building applications in monoliths, you'll know that that's patently false. Yes, most of the pattern of building applications with Meteor is monolith structures, and they have their benefits. There are some really good things that come out of that too. But if you want to go the path of building microservices, that option has been open to you, and it's been open for a very long time. Jan Küster, for instance, has written quite a bit about it. He's built his own applications with a microservices architecture. And I just want to bring up a thread on the forums that there's been some talk about. Leo Idenhoff, a while back, had made a request to folks asking for some suggestions on how they might go about decomposing project into microservices. And the reason I bring this up, and I think it's a useful article, is for the folks here who have only worked with the monolith pattern. If you are interested in going down the path of trying to do it as a set of microservices instead, your application is a set of microservices, you may want to take a look at this, at the threaded discussion in this forum. There are several different developers that have weighed in, shared their opinions. What's really interesting or useful in this is observing the kinds of questions that folks are asking each other about the application and the goals behind what they want to do with it. So I would suggest that this is something that you might want to take a look at if you are thinking about weighing the options of trying to build your application as a set of microservices. And of course, Jan Küster has a number of articles in dev.to that addresses this. And we also have on the Meteor site, as well as at the, I think, the New York Meteor site, some videos that he has done demonstrating this pattern too. So anyway, if we want to move on, I want to remind you guys that if you're finding value in what we're doing here, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and give the episode a like. All right. Storyteller?
All right, apologies for that. Looking at the rest of the ecosystem, we've mentioned, I do believe, in the past, JSR, yep, which is a new open source package registry. So first of all, no matter how you feel about it, I would highly recommend everybody to go there and reserve your own namespace, lest somebody might take it from you. I've already done that for my Storyteller namespace. And this JSR is from the creators of Dino, and recently they have published very interesting article I find. Let me share that here. How we built JSR. So it talks about what were the goals, what were the design decisions, some overtalk over the technical aspects about all of that stuff. And, it goes all into the details about that, but it also goes into details about how they minimize latency for the main website and all the other decisions that they made. So I would highly recommend, if web performance is something that you are interested in, to give this a read, because it goes beyond just talking about the packaging system itself. It also talks about how to or how they decided to optimize their web page, what were the decisions, drawbacks, which I think, especially with how they optimize their main website, is very much useful to everybody who is dealing with that sort of optimization and work in there. So highly recommended. And of course, they also have been talking for a while about how they are different, what makes them different. And every time I look at it, I cannot just help. Okay, this is a kind of mix of NPM and the Meteor account system to a certain degree. So I think it's going to be very interesting going forward. Keep an eyes on it. And if something interesting happens there, I will be sure to let you know.
Excellent. Well, it is just a little bit different, right? Because NPM is both a registry and now I'm glitching. I forgot what I was going to say. So anyway, with that, let's just move on to the next story. I'll leave you guys hanging trying to figure out what it was that I was going to try to say, and maybe you'll come up with the answer to my question, or you'll come up with the full question and then be able to figure out the answer. But let's just leave it.
The question to the audience here is if they have already checked out JSR, and if you guys have already secured your namespace or not.
Yeah. So the thing I was going to say is that it's interesting that JSR is a registry, but not a package manager, but NPM is both, right? So that's one of the big differences there. And I think it's interesting that they made that decision. I'm kind of curious. I'll have to read that article again and see if they explain why they made that decision. But if you're interested in that too, go ahead, take a look. And in the meantime, I think there's some really interesting things that are going on. With all the AI movement that's gone on in the last 2 or 3 years now, data has become really, really important to all of that. To build these big, large language models, you need a lot of data. And companies like OpenAI have been going out and slurping the entire internet, sucking down all the open information that they can find, sometimes going in behind the walled gardens and pulling information and training their models. One of the places that a lot of data scientists would go and find data to do sentiment analysis was Twitter. And Twitter, the fire hose was pretty expensive to go and get access to, but you could go and you could scrape relatively large amounts of public tweets for a very long time and build your own corpus and do tests with that. Most of you, I think, know that Twitter has since locked down their API, and the amount of tweets that you could retrieve is very, very meager, and they don't like. It's very expensive also if you wanted to get a full listing and access to it. So you guys have heard of Threads, right? Threads is Meta's answer to Twitter, and they've been trying for a while to build it up and get enough participation in it as a replacement to Twitter. Well, what they've also done now is they have an API, and they have now opened up their API access to all sorts of developers. Sarah Perez from TechCrunch reports in Meta's ex-competitor Threads invites developers to sign up for API access, publishes docs. In the article that she's published, and she mentions that this was available initially for general availability after it was pilot tested by a handful of invited companies, folks that have been given the privilege of trying it out before everybody else, but now it's available for anyone else who wants to use it. All right, the point I'm trying to make is there is now another set of data out there that if you want to do sentiment analysis, you want to try testing things out, you can go and you can sign up for this, and hopefully it will be a suitable replacement or at least a decent proxy for what you used to be able to do with Twitter. And for folks like me, that's really important because, you know, sometimes it's hard to get that data. So that's it. You have anything you want to pop in and say about this? I know that you have some strong feelings.
Nothing relevant to the news.
All right, that's great. Now, you know, this comes from the What the Duck file. You guys have heard of these different syndromes that have been described over the years. I mean, growing up, I never heard of anything like, you know, imposter syndrome, but it's a real thing. People experience it. And now we have a way of describing the way people feel about being in a situation where they're not super confident, right? They know what they don't know. They know that there is stuff that they don't know, and they're not really confident in saying like they're an expert or something. And sometimes they just don't feel like they belong. Well, there is a sister to this. Have you ever been around people that are like super confident, and you wondered yourself like, how is it that they're able to stay so composed, that they're able to command? They must be really, really expert at things, or they must really know their stuff. And there's another syndrome. It's called the floating duck syndrome. And the floating duck syndrome says, well, you know, we see that appearance, and the folks out there that put on this facade about, you know, having this composure, while they're actually terrified inside. Or so, and the way it's described is, you know, when you see a duck on the water, the duck looks calm, it's moving forward, everything is really, you know, serene, and the duck is very composed on the water. It looks like it's in command of everything. But you take a look under the water, you look at its feet, and you'll see that those feet are like cranking hard, and they're moving all over the place. It's like chaos underneath there. And that is the idea behind this notion of floating duck syndrome. So if you've ever been the person that has stood in front of people, presented while you were dying inside, or having a lot of fear, that you weren't perhaps as cogent or confident as everybody seems to think you are, then you might have floating duck syndrome. Have you heard of that one?
No, it's the first time you interested me. That was the first time I heard about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, similar to the, let's say, social media syndrome.
I don't know that one.
Well, that's kind of, I'm not sure what the officially it's called, but, you know, the idea is like you look on the social media and everything, everybody looks amazing, happy, constantly on vacation.
Everybody's got the perfect life. Yeah.
Yes, and the situation is that's the highlight reel. That's, you know.
Yeah. You don't see you don't see the repossession agent collecting the car in the background, or
yes,
or getting the eviction notice from the court, right? So, yeah. So this article was written by Mark Travers. He's got a PhD, and it was published in Psychology Today. So if you're interested in checking out and learning about a new syndrome, take a look at it. And I think with that, we are done with the news.
Yay.
So
if you found that interesting, or if you like this new format, or in general, please leave us a like. It helps in the algorithms, especially now that with the voting or with the election season in America, YouTube is, of course, tinkering with the algorithms, so things are all over the place. So giving us a like, we are not a political shows, really helps, as well as any comments or thoughts that you might leave in the comment section or in the chat.
We also forget to do this a lot. We're at 180 members right now. We really like to get to 200 before the end of the month. And so if you're watching the show and you have not subscribed, please find and smash that bell icon and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you as a member. And it would also, make us feel like we're making some progress here. We seem to have been stuck at 179, but we got to 180 this week. And I know that there are many others out there that are watching this that are finding it useful, that if they could, if you hit the subscribe button, you'll get a notification when we put a new episode up. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and the bonus of being subscribed is that you will see new live streams coming up in your YouTube feed. So you will be informed of anything new that's coming up. So if you like what we are doing or would like to be on top of everything around Meteor, this is a sure way to get things set up for YouTube.
So Storyteller, you spent a lot of time on Monday and you've been thinking a lot. We've been talking about this behind the scenes, about what's going on in the open source community and with open source licenses in general over the last couple of weeks. I mean, it's been really disturbing, hasn't it? The trend towards taking what are either BSD open source licenses or MIT licenses and then locking them down. In some cases, it seems very necessary because there is abuse. In other cases, it may be that folks who are running those projects are actually taking advantage of contributions that they're getting for free from members of the Open Source Society. So how do we parse this? What did you discuss? What did you talk about in your Monday program? Can you give us a recap on that and tell us some of the things that we're thinking about here? And then, of course, I'll mention, I think, a little later, where we're going to hear more about this.
Yes. So this is all, I would say, in the process of trying to kind of figure things out, having these discussions. Because one of the things as humans, we kind of categorize and organize our thoughts as we speak them out to somebody else and potentially get a feedback as well. So that's why I'm holding, these different talks about different topics. This one is specifically about open source, the future. So I had my stream on Monday. You can find it on my channel if you want to come on in. And it's probably not I don't think it's just like the first time I dedicated an episode on it. It's not the last one. As I said, this is a process of trying to figure out things, new information coming. So what was covered is that I am observing an increasing split in FOSS between hobby and work projects, which makes sense because most of the, well, not most of it, but so quite a few projects out there start as a hobby project as a way to try something new. We have also over the years, especially recently, seen, and Meteor is actually one of those projects where a project gets started as an open source, and then it's later on tried to be developed into company or something that can make money. I would say that's even more increasing in recent years. The split is well known, and it's overall then the issue also comes with funding. Because of course, everybody wants to fund React. Everybody, wants to fund GraphQL or, the sexy stuff. Everybody wants to fund Linux because that's the big name. So everybody goes fund that. But oftentimes we have a lot of smaller dependencies and packages that we depend on, which are crucial. And that's the classical XKCD comic with, amazing, massive infrastructure. There's like one tiny part, if you take away, everything is going to crumble. And famously, that is just one guy maintaining that without any thanks or support. So that is becoming an issue. And even in the past, as you mentioned, Alan, where we've seen exploitation from companies, so which led to the license split and all that stuff. And today we've reached, I think, a point where we have GitHub sponsors, open collected, Tidelift, that not really supporting open source or the projects that your company is depending on is, if anything, an excuse because the options are there. Yes, granted, some not always, but if there is a will, there's a way, and it's monetary support is not the only way that project can be supported. With that, also, I've observed that there is what's kind of connected to all of this is a cultural divide. And I don't just mean like as people from different culture, but even like in the same could say nation. I think there's different say culture, and I think we can also observe that between different types of, for example, positions. The CTO and CEO are going to have a different approach to open source than say a regular developer who enjoys playing with open source versus, for example, also a developer who just goes 9 to 5 and after work he clocks out and doesn't care about anything related to work or technology and instead goes back and take care of his family. So that also plays an important part. And for example, in Meteor, that's why why we see or we hear the rumors of the huge Indian Meteor community or people using Meteor in India or in Brazil, but rarely we see them on the forums, and that's because most of those people are in companies working with Meteor, but beyond that, they are either somewhere on their local platforms and they're not interacting with our main international community. So that plays a role. Another big thing that I mentioned is that the share of low trust societies is increasing, which is a huge issue for open source because open source is built on high trust society model. So, and that's why we've seen things like XZ and other problems increasing, and who knows where that rabbit hole goes down to. But the possible saving grace here is if there is that we could potentially maybe change the corporate culture. I think Linux foundations and similar initiatives have, especially with the big corporations, change the approach to everything. So we just need to hopefully get it into smaller companies. And kind of to finish on two thoughts right now, I'm kind of oscillating between two conclusions, and that usually depends on my mood, how my mood is that day. Either we are heading into dark dystopian future of walled gardens and only pretty much with outside of those walled gardens or gardens protected by the big corporation, you will not trust anything. Pretty much it will be like you will look at open source. Okay, so if I install this, that's pretty much the same thing as voluntarily installing malware or virus on my computer, unless it's from again one of the selected sources. Or I think there is an option where we kind of change the culture and things evolve in a more positive direction, because open source beyond isn't just software. It's a certain specific view on software, specific culture, and kind of more of the, I wouldn't necessarily say walled garden, but more of the funding way. Tidelift had this week on Wednesday a webinar, pretty much talking about how they you pay into Tidelift and then they work with open source managers to make sure that they have security patches and everything else going on there. So that was the gist of the discussions or my thoughts going on. If you want to hear in more detail in the raw form, you can check out my stream on Monday.
Yeah, and we have the link in the and we'll be providing that link as well as the rest of the links to you and I'll tell you how you get them later, but you will get those. So let's just dive on here. That's a lot, and actually, I think we could get deep into the weeds on an exchange of ideas on this, and we will. And I'm gonna share with everyone when and how they can participate or hear about that in just a couple of minutes. But first, we're going to talk about a couple of useful resources for your professional development, your personal development also, and those are our CFP and conference listings, right? So why don't we get to that now? The first of these is JavaScript FW days. These are calls for papers. And JavaScript FW Days 24 conference, the CFP closes on the 15th of May. So if you're looking for something to apply to and to, get involved with, the conference actually is happening in Kiev, in the Ukraine, and also online. It will take place on June 15th, but the deadline for the papers is on the 15th of May. So you have an opportunity if you want to do something there, stand with Ukraine, then that gives you an opportunity to get involved in a JavaScript conference there. So consider it, give it a shot, and that's the first one. The second is the React Advanced London conference. That's going to be in London and also online again. It's going to be held October 25th to 28th, and the call for paper deadline is June 11th. So you have a little over a month to get something together, get a proposal together, and put it in. And perhaps one of the things we should do in another episode, or maybe just something separate, is do a demonstration of how we actually go about putting in an application for a call for papers. I think that might be helpful for some people who've never done it before. And then the third and final on this list is JS Nation US. The call for papers closes on July 1st, so you have a little over almost 2 months if you want to apply for that. If you're working with React, you've built some components, you have a pattern that you've found to be successful, or you found a whole bunch of problems working with React, do a presentation. It's going to take place both online and in New York City. So if you do, put an application in and you are going to be speaking, the conference is November 18th to the 21st. You put your application in and you get accepted. Let me know about it. I'll come meet you because I live in New York City. So it'll be kind of a cool thing for us to get together if that happens. All right. And with that, I'm going to pass on the conference listings to you, Storyteller.
Yes. So 3 selected conferences to consider visiting that are coming up in June, July, and September respectively. First being the Front End Nation. That one is online from June 4th to 7th. So also it's free. So why not do that? If front end, so kind of similar, Front End Nation. So great, it's from greatest vue.js Nation, Next, and so on. So follows a big tradition in that. Going from online to the beach, you could say, is Web Summer Camp, NetGen, from July 4th to July 6th in Croatia, in Opatija. So, yeah, time to go to the beach and also enjoy a nice conference to that as well. And finally, on this list in America, in September 10th to 12th, we have GraphQL Conference 2024 in California, in San Francisco. So if you are from that part of the world and you're dealing with GraphQL, that's definitely a conference not to miss. And you're also likely to run into people from Apollo, the original creators of Meteor. So definitely something interesting to check out.
Terrific. Yeah. I think any of those would be a great thing to give a try. And of course, the free one is free, and you know, you could learn quite a bit and maybe find some other people. I think the web summer camp, though, looks like a lot of fun, because even if the topics aren't to your liking, you're going to have some fun out there. I mean, if you don't have fun, you've got things going on that you need to take a look at. Hey, can I ask you to tell me we were kind of teasing about this follow-up to your talk on Monday. Can you just let the folks know when that's happening, and you know, how they can participate? Or
Yes. So on May 20th, so that's in 16 days, we have decided that Alim is going to join me on another of my Monday streams, which is going to be cross-stream also to the MeteorJS community. We are making that into a hot topic called the tragedy of the commons, where we pick up where I ended, kind of go over the issues with that over again, to see how things, you know, how my thinking has changed, what Alim thinks in more detail, have a lively discussion.
I'll be bringing lots of examples into the discussion, because I really want to dive down, not just on the theoretical, but, you know, on many of the situations that we've actually confronted and seen, and use those
all
as
the spicy drama.
All the spicy drama, exactly. Hot topics.
Yeah. Yes, so that's going to happen, and I think with Meteor there is also kind of a uniqueness, because we are slowly building, probably through something like Tidelift with Meteor community packages. So, and Meteor does have a interesting history, which could be used as an example of tragedy of the commons, but I would put that big asterisk there, primarily because the story is not finished and it's developing in a positive direction. So that's a big one. And I'm just going to quickly use this as a shout out also for those of you who don't know. There's this things called Tidelift. So if you know, you're especially, I would say mostly for bigger companies, but potentially for smaller ones as well. This is, you know, you kind of pay together with other companies into a shared pool, and Tidelift then distributes the money to the developers of the packages, and it's based on a lot of analysis on their part. They have agreements or contracts with the packages that they have under their maintenance, or kind of their umbrella, that allow them, you know, to quickly react to any security vulnerabilities and anything else. And it also helps, you know, with a lot of compliance and ease of mind, because they have, for example, CI tool that lets you check, you know, about, or even like in the web, you know, about different packages and see, you know, okay, what was the status of the package, what's the what's the license, was you know, what are the latest updates, are there any known security vulnerabilities, and so on and so forth. And this is, you know, a lot of Python and Java, but also JavaScript. So definitely check it out if you are in a position where you might need this.
Cool. All right, we are now moving on to our segment called Understanding Meteor. And let me see if, I know that we had a streaming version of this before. I guess, hang on one second. Let me see if I can get this going, because it's better if we can just stream it rather than scroll it, I mean, rather than have it just sitting there. There we go. There we go. So the Understanding Meteor section of this program is sponsored by Galaxy. Galaxy is the resource built by Meteor Software for hosting Meteor applications natively in the cloud. And this time around, we have a where we typically have some interactive activity going on here, whether it's a demo of code or, as we did last week, a walkthrough of code and some small demo. This week, our friend Jan Küster could not be here. He has written an article recently, though, that I think is worth reading, and it does help you understand a bit more at the conceptual level about what Meteor is. So it's a great little article. It's called The 5 Core Concepts You Should Know About Meteor.js in 2024. And when he walks through this, I'll just give you a brief summary of it, is he talks about what are the key concepts that make Meteor unique among tech stacks in the JavaScript world. He says, first of all, this is a true full stack. It is the stack that has the front end, middle tier, and the back end, where all you need is to deal with all of them is a single programming language, JavaScript. He then goes on to talk about the different other aspects of it that make it unique. DDP over WebSockets, for instance, is one of the ways that we're able to have inter-process communication in the application. There is optimistic UI, which is where there's some simulation of some kind of calculation that happens in the UI to keep everything seemingly responsive, even though it may not be resolved at the server yet. And that the platform itself offers zero configuration. If you work with any other platform today, when we're talking about things like Next, or if you're talking about working with Express, you have to assemble and wire all the parts together. There is configuration that you need to do in order to make your application work. With Meteor, you don't really need that. There is some minor configurations. You might have to give a connection string to a database, but for the most part, the rest of it is easily resolved. You don't have to write YAML scripts, YAML files by hand, or even JSON configuration files. A lot of that can be automated very easily. And so we say that that's zero config. And finally, as part of all of this, there is the use of ES Next, which is the build system, a part of the build system that is used to build out applications with Meteor. And he throws one last item in. He talks about the community packages as being like an extra, it's sort of a meta, he says, element of or a concept, an element, a concept to this. But at the end of the day, we have the 5, the true full stack, web sockets and DDP, optimistic UI, zero config, and ES Next. I think because he works on the community packages, he wanted to make sure that it got a good call. But I would say that he's probably right about that. The package system is one of the things that makes Meteor unique. Yes, you can just use NPM packages, but there is a lot of richness to the Meteor packages that go beyond what you can get from NPM. And so I think it's an article worth reading. You should take a look at it. There is a link that you're going to get. And I'm going to tell you in just a minute, following any comments that Storytel might have to this bit of understanding Meteor.
Not really.
Okay.
I think this is really basics that everybody who's using Meteor should know. So
sometimes we need a reminder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for the folks that are encountering it for the first time, this is a great way to find out what's in Meteor. If you're looking at older information, they'll tell you about the 7 principles of Meteor, some of which don't apply anymore. So it's really good that we have something that's up to date, that addresses modern Meteor, and shares that information, at least at a high level, with all of those that are trying to understand what Meteor is and what it has. Okay. And with that, I think we are done with the section. So I keep on teasing and saying you're going to be able to get these links. And let me explain why you're going to be able to get these links. In the show notes, you can find them right now. I've gone in and there is a line in there that says links. And if you look at it, it points to a new resource. We are, based on feedback that we got from two very respected members of our community, one who's been on the program, another who's built a package pretty much everybody uses, and used to be a leader in the community space. We've gotten some feedback that we're going a little too long, so I think we're really trying very hard to stay on time right now. And the other thing is that sometimes what they need, because they don't really have time to watch the whole program, is when we talk about the resources, the links, the packages, the demos that we show you, they'd like to have the URLs to them. And so we've created, starting this week, we've created a newsletter that will go out on Monday mornings, and it's already scheduled. The first one's already scheduled, so you're going to be seeing it. And it is at, and I probably should type this in someplace here. I left it as an exercise, but let me just do this right now really quickly. It's HTTPS. It is meteordispatches.substack.com. So we have a Substack and that you can go to. I'm going to just put it up in a second here. And if you go and you sign up for it, if you go and you sign up for this newsletter, you will get that once a week after we're done with the program. The way I'm doing it right now is once we get ready for the program on Friday and we lock down what our stories are going to be, I'm transferring everything into the newsletter and I'm scheduling it. So before we even start the program, the newsletter is going to be prepared to go out before we get going. So hopefully for all of you that have been asking for this, now you're going to have it. I would like to get some feedback on what you think about it. The format is going to be very spare. It's basically just going to be the listings based on what we've talked about, and it's going to be in an outline structure. If you want more than that, put comments either in the show episode on YouTube or in the comments at Substack for that letter when you get it. All right. And is there anything else you want to add to this, or excuse me?
Nope.
All right. You've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did a test. Okay, folks, we're closing up real fast here. We're at our reminders, and I just want to bring out a couple of things. There's some folks that have had significant impact in our world, and we want to try to remember people that have been here before and have done some significant stuff, whether it's in the media community, in the computer science committee, or in the larger world. And there is this gentleman by the name of Peter Higgs. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's famous for a thing called the Higgs boson. And Higgs had theorized many, many years ago that there is this field through which that gives rise to this thing called the Higgs boson, which is considered a thing called the God particle. Sometimes it's called the God particle, which gives certain fundamental particles mass. So he was trying to understand, where mass, or how mass arises in certain elements and or particles, I should say, not elements, in particles, and had this theory. And I think it's pretty amazing that for somebody that thought something up, had a thought experiment, did some calculations, and came up with it, that you're important, or your ideas are important when 50 years later they build for $10 billion. They're willing to spend $10 million to build a tool, the Large Hadron Collider it was, that was purpose-built just to find out whether or not this thing exists. And I think that's pretty amazing that if if your ideas are so strong that governments are willing to put that kind of money in to, test your idea, you must have had some significant impact on the world. So, Peter Higgs, see you in the next life.
All right. For me, there is new from the IEEE that they have awarded the Medal of Honor to Robert Kahn. Just kind of, what the heck is IEEE? And it's a professional association of technical professional that is dedicated to the advancing technology for the benefit of humanity.
Yeah.
But more importantly, who the heck is Robert Kahn? And they, in their description here, why they awarded it to him, it's, I think, very simple. He is the guy who had the initial idea that then evolved into ARPANET. And ARPANET, if you know your internet history, eventually evolved into internet itself. So that's who he is, a very interesting character in our history. Alim?
Yeah, it's and we should be clear, it's who he was, because he's passed away recently. So he had been awarded that. He's picked up a lot of awards. He also picked up, I think it was the Medal of Freedom, and I'm not sure if he was a Medal of Technology recipient also, but yes, you're right, he's the inventor of packet switching, a really important figure in the fundamentals of this network that we use. So if you find interesting people like this that we may not know about, that you think are interesting and we should want to share them, alive or dead, let us know, because I think it's great to acknowledge and meet with people, and also remember those that have been here before us that help build the thing that we enjoy. So that's that. And by the way, I hope you're enjoying the episode. Again, like, subscribe if you have, and leave comments. We haven't seen a lot of comments today. Normally we see quite a bit. We've had Camila chatting with us. I'm not sure who else is in there. I know that we have had about 5 or 6 people showing up today. It's lightly attended compared to what we've had in the past, but that's okay. We're happy to have everybody that's here with us. We like saying hello to everyone that's in the chat, and we haven't had a chance to really do that so much because we haven't seen so many, but it's all right. One of the things I want to point out, and what I remind you about, is we're talking about software that follows an open source license. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, that open source is not free software. I think Stallman would disagree with me. He looks at this as, FOSS rather than OSS. It's free open source software is his viewpoint. But the fact is, other people build this, and they build it on their own time, and they build it on their own dime. And my message, as always, to everyone is, if you use software that is built on the labors of others, find a way to acknowledge them. Find a way to let them know that their work is appreciated and support them. There are developers that are doing this on the corporate dime, and that's great because their companies allow them the opportunity to do that. But many, many, many more software developers do it on their own time and their own dime, meaning they do it out of their own pocket. And if you have the opportunity to contribute to a sponsorship page or a Patreon or whatever it is that they may have out, please consider doing that, because that helps them out a lot, and it lets them know that their work is appreciated and valued. So in our case, we have 2 of our Ions. Well, we only have 2 Ions in our group right now, but both of our Ions work on the community packages, and they both have GitHub sponsorship pages. So we have Küster's page up right now, and Storyteller, I think you'll swing over. You have one too, don't you? So
Indeed.
If we can show that, that's right. So we'll have the links also in. Those links will also show up in the newsletter. If you are so inclined, please make a contribution. And if you've missed any of the episodes over the past several weeks and you'd like to go back, you should check out the playlist. Those have every single one of the episodes that we've published so far. And I think Storyteller is going to bring that up in a second here so you can see it. If you're not familiar, within the YouTube website, there is the playlist for this podcast. And again, we're going to put this link also in the newsletter. It's already there. I'm saying we're going to. I've already written the newsletter. It's scheduled to go out, and it has all of these other things. So with that, unless there's something you want to add, I think I'm just going to say that next week we're covering technical debt. And I will say that I will not be here next week. I'm going to be traveling, so I'm going to be on a plane, and I won't be able to make it. But Küster will be back. So it's going to be the Jan and Jan show next week. So have a great weekend, guys. And thanks for joining.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
All right.